The Ethereum price has absolutely exploded over the past several weeks, and for lots of good reasons. I mean, we've got all kinds of technological innovation happening on top of the Ethereum platform, and we're starting to see another trend inside the Ethereum ecosystem take off as well, decentralized finance, or DeFi for short. And right now, we're on the cusp of another leap forward in technological innovation for DeFi. And I want to talk about in this video because a lot of times these advancements happen first before you see a big appreciation in price like this. So I'm talking about some specific projects and use cases that you need to watch out for because, I mean, honestly, these things are scary in terms of what they could potentially accomplish. I'm going to break these down step by step in this video as a blockchain developer who works with the Ethereum protocol on a daily basis and also an Ethereum and DeFi holder myself. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. And last but not least, this is not financial advice. I hate these disclaimers, but like nothing I'm telling you in this video is designed to tell you to buy or sell any cryptocurrency. And there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. Just ignore them. I'll never give you my phone number or ask you to invest with me. So we've seen Ethereum absolutely take off over the past few weeks. And I think the world is starting to realize like what this technology is actually capable of. Ethereum lets you have smart contracts up the blockchain that lets you create programs that you can use to build, anything you want to. And one use case that's really taken off is decentralized finance, or DeFi. This is basically taking traditional financial applications and moving them over to the blockchain. Things like savings, loans, and trading. If you've been watching this channel for a while, I've talked a ton about DeFi because it's one of the major use cases for the Ethereum technology right now. So you have to understand a little bit about DeFi's history. How did it start? How did it become what it is today? And what's going to happen next for DeFi, because this is really important to understand. So DeFi really exploded over the past year. We saw a DeFi summer happen in 2020, where a lot of early DeFi projects started taking off like a rocket. Things like Wi-Fi, Aave, Synthetics, Compound. You can see a list of decentralized financial projects here on CoinGecko. Just go to coingecko.com/en/DeFi, and you can see a list of those tokens here. So the early players in the DeFi game were able to, create these solutions before anybody else. They really were early innovators, and they saw the biggest gains over DeFi summer last year. And so what were these types of innovations? We saw things like savings and lending with compound finance. This honestly, for me, was one of the first applications that gave me the aha moment for what was possible with DeFi back when I saw it in 2019. So Compound is a savings and lending protocol. What it lets you do is basically deposit cryptocurrency to the application, earn interest on that, and then take out loans with your cryptocurrency on the other side, okay? Now, this is called collateralized lending or over-collateralized lending, where basically you have to deposit more than you can borrow. We'll talk about that here more in a minute. But that's an example of an early DeFi project that saw a lot of action last year. Of course, Aave as well is a very similar type of application where you can do savings and lending. We had other projects like Synthetics Network, which is a decentralized liquidity protocol, Uniswap, SushiSwap for decentralized exchanges, and Wi-Fi for automated yield farming, and a lot more. Now, I just want to recap these as early DeFi use cases like savings, lending, and why this is important, because these are some of the key features for early DeFi projects that took off in 2020. And a lot of people are talking about a DeFi summer 2.0 happening very soon, where projects that are innovating or new projects that are coming onto the scene can get a lot of attention really fast. And I actually want to talk about the technology behind these things, because these are some of the scary use cases that I think are really going to push this space forward and press the limits of what's possible and further the likelihood that we actually do successfully create a brand new financial system that can capture some of the value that's in the traditional financial system that we have today. So we can see some of these themes in the tweet here. So new major themes for DeFi summer round 2. So cross-chain exchange with Thorchain. So I made a video recently talking about this. So basically, this takes like the Uniswap model and actually applies it to different blockchains. So if you're talking about trading tokens on Uniswap, you're talking to a smart contract on top of Ethereum, where whenever you trade, you're trading directly with a smart contract, and that trades your tokens, but then you're locked into the assets that are only on the Ethereum network itself. So if you want to trade Bitcoin for Ether, for example, these are both layer 1 cryptocurrencies. You can use something like Thorchain to facilitate that swap. So we've covered that on the channel already. You can go check the video if you haven't already. But blockchain level liquidity incentives like Polygon, for example. So we saw liquidity incentives were huge last summer in DeFi, where basically people would launch new projects and you could go enter into their smart contracts and get yields that way. Okay, but here's the last use case that I'm super excited about, and honestly is a huge deal for DeFi, especially for normal people over the long term, which is under-collateralized lending. All right, I want to explain what that is and why it's so important. So a minute ago, we talked about an app like Compound Finance was one of the first lending apps in the space. So how does it work? Well, basically, when you go use Compound, you can deposit cryptocurrency in it like a bank, right? And you can earn interest on it, like this APY. And then you could take out a loan on the other side. So you could deposit DAI, for example, and then you could borrow, I don't know, a different cryptocurrency like Ether, or vice versa. You could deposit Ether and then borrow DAI. So whenever you're using like Compound, you have to over-collateralize your loan. So for example, if you wanted to take out a loan, let's say for $100 worth of DAI, let's say the collateralization factor is like 0.75, then that means you would have to supply more Ether to the app in order to borrow that. So let's change the numbers here to make it a lot simpler to understand. So basically, if you want to borrow $75 worth of DAI, then you have to deposit $100 worth of Ether. And then you can borrow $75 worth of DAI. You can think about this as like 75% loan to value here. So basically, or 0.75 loan to value. So you see, you always have to deposit more money than you're borrowing. That's what over-collateralization means. Some people say, why would you do this? Why on earth would you have to deposit more money in order to take out a loan? Who takes out a loan in the first place? Well, people do it for different reasons. One is you can do it. It was an early way to do things like shorting, where basically you could just like borrow an asset if you expect the price to go down. And then, you would buy it back and then redeem it, and then you could make a profit on the difference. Or you could do it for leverage. So basically, let's say you expect the Ethereum price to go up long term. You could put in $100 worth of Ether, and then let's say ETH 2x's from here, and you borrow 75 DAI, okay? And then ETH 2x's from here. Then you still have your Ether. You have $2,000 worth of Ether, and you have $75 worth of DAI. You could take that $75 worth of DAI and go buy other cryptocurrencies that you expect to appreciate in price, maybe like DeFi tokens. Or you could honestly just cash out on exchange, use it in the real world to buy other assets that could go up in value, like, I don't know, other stocks or houses. Or lastly, you could just go back and buy more Ether. I mean, it just allows you to do leverage on chain with no middlemen, no gatekeepers or anything like that. As long as you have the money and access to the chain, you can you can do it. That's what an over-collateralized loan is, and how you do it on something like Aave or Compound. Now, this last use case that I'm talking about being a big deal for DeFi Summer 2.0 is under-collateralized lending. So this is over-collateralized lending. So what about under-collateralized lending? So this would basically be like other types of credit that we have in the real world, where you don't have to put down more than you're borrowing. And this opens up the door to experiences that normal consumers are used to. So you can think about different types of loans that most people are not used to, a car loan or a home loan or even a credit card. Those are probably the most common use cases that I could possibly think of off the top of my head. Now, of course, in the case of like a home or a car, like if you don't pay back your loan or you're delinquent or something like that, they of course can just take the asset itself from you. Think about credit cards. How they typically work is, you have a credit score, and then you can get a credit card and you have this line of credit. And if you don't pay back your debt, or you're late on payments, or you basically turn into a bad borrower, then they do have, legal recourse against you. You can go to debt collection. Your credit score could tank where you could never have a credit card or, get a loan ever again. You could have personal bankruptcy. There's lots of ways that they can basically disincentivize you from being a bad borrower, or conversely incentivize you being a good borrower. And we're starting to see this type of thing happen within DeFi. Early projects experiment with this. So Teller Finance is an example. This is an algorithmic credit risk protocol for decentralized lending. So how does it work? Well, basically, other people can deposit into the app like Compound, like I was talking about a minute ago, and earn APY for doing that, earn interest. And then other people can basically borrow and request loans with little to no collateral. Okay. So this, I think, can be huge. All right. This is an early project that's doing that. I've seen a couple others in the space. I don't have any affiliation with Teller. It's not like a sponsored video or anything like that. But this is definitely one that I'm keeping my eye on. And if you want to learn more how it works, you can check out their white paper here and their documentation. So you can go through and see basically how they implement this. This is something that I actually want to sit down and read more myself. Maybe we'll talk about it on the live streams that we do Monday through Friday on this channel, about 9:30 a.m. Central Time. But basically, you can see high level here, they use a credit history, okay? And then you can see how the collateral works. The protocol basically determines what kind of collateral you need to put down. And so in many ways, it looks like this is automating what's already happening in the traditional financial system. So let's think about like a car loan, for example. So if you want to get a car loan, you go into a dealer, and depending on like what dealership it is and what kind of buyer you are, they might say you don't have to put any money down to buy this car. Let's say you made like a ton of money every single month and they have really great financing terms. They might give you an interest rate that makes sense to them and say, hey, you don't have to put any money down. I've seen this happen because then that makes them more money over the long term, because then, they make more money in interest on that way. It's good for them as long as you look like a reputable borrower that can actually pay back that loan and aren't going to be delinquent. The same type of thing is there for credit cards. Like if you look like a reputable borrower, people will give you an insane credit limit for credit cards. Or if you prove that you have like a solid income and, a great credit score, then you can get a crazy high credit limit for your credit card. So we can see these types of things happening in DeFi, where essentially we start modeling the same types of things that we have in traditional finance, like some sort of reputation system. And honestly, I could see this being really useful in DeFi over the long term. So cryptocurrency, of course, is, anonymous in the sense of we don't know exactly who the person is whenever they're using the application, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't benefit from some sort of reputation on the chain itself. So even if you were anonymous and they didn't know what your name, social security number were, or what your physical address was, now that Ethereum is starting to actually have a significant amount of history on it, you could prove that you had a reputation of paying back loans, and you could verify this information with the blockchain. You could trust it in this way. And of course, you see people like having different addresses they do different things with on the cryptocurrency networks and like splitting up their activity. But you could still, in an automated way, determine what this person's history was, maybe see what the minimum balance in their wallet has been over the past, year, 2 years, track all the activity for their savings and lending. Did they pay back their loans? And then give some sort of confidence score in this person. And then, maybe the protocol would lose out. Maybe they would have some false positives, but on the whole, they would still, make mostly good decisions. And that would actually be profitable for the protocol, at least more so than just like having to vet every single person individually. And so in this way, maybe you could develop some sort of reputation score, like a credit score on top of the blockchain that looks at this person's history and tries to qualify what kind of borrower they are in order to say whether the app wants to give them a loan or not. And, talk about, there being recourse in a traditional financial system where people can come after you if you don't pay back your loans. Well, in DeFi, you might get blacklisted. Maybe you now have a reputation for being an unreputable borrower, and you now need this reputation in order to use other, lending platforms. So there would be an incentive for you if you want to actually exist in the DeFi ecosystem and be able to use these types of things to act honestly and fulfill your borrowing obligations. And so that's where I could see under-collateralized lending happening. That's where I think we're headed with the DeFi space in terms of savings and lending. And I think this would be a huge part of this next wave that everyone's talking about, which is DeFi Summer 2.0. Again, we had this last year. Whenever the explosion of DeFi apps happened, we saw the prices go crazy. It really kicked off a lot of this cryptocurrency bull run that we're a part of today. And if we see a similar type of thing happen pretty soon, then these are the types of innovations that I think will get a lot of attention, and we'll see a lot of hype around these types of things. So that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so that more people can learn about blockchain. If you like these videos and you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, then how can you get your hands dirty today? Well, you can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find any of my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I can show you become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. Okay, you don't have to be an expert to get started today. Help people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.